Hello, my name is Dennis Zong. I'll be doing a presentation for a media and crime assignment. First question, the influence of mass media on perceptions of crime and deviance. So, thanks to the 4 assigned peer review article, I have a clear handle of how the mass media influences our own opinions and deviant acts and crime. The mass media has led to us misrepresenting and making assumptions it is the racial or ethnic minorities that are considered as dangerous in today's society. However, these assumptions have been there since many generations ago. These assumptions made in the past due to the structured society in the past itself has led to more misunderstanding. Thus, this has left minorities to be vulnerable and further targeted by society, media, and politicians. Going on to my second question, the mass media has created an unwarranted level of fear towards crime in society. To be more specific though, it has led to the assumptions in society that certain minority groups are more dangerous and likely to do criminal/deviant acts. It is these assumptions that has been leaked back to media, further spreading this misrepresentation. This misrepresentation has negatively impacted these minority groups, which is why it must be clarified. So my evidence to back behind the unwarranted level of fear towards crime in society is the peer review article Crime Cultivation Comparison Across Media Genres and Channels. Okay, in this peer review article, it explains in page 153 that that those who had watched TV crime news had felt more fear and concern towards their own safety and danger, while those who had read a newspaper had felt more confidence in their own self-protection and less fear of crime. Now, a big reason as to why there'd be such a big difference in the fear of crime, as stated in page 153, is that TV crime news had more episodic reporting, while a newspaper had more thematic reporting. And the previous article mentions disorder and violence, an empirical picture and context. It states that young children are unconsciously taught that irrational people are aggressive. Now, this is so not true because it was also earlier explained in page 8 that compared to other variables, age, race, social class, ecological variables, and poverty, mental state is a weak predictor of danger of violence, which means that just because someone's irrational doesn't make them any more dangerous. In another peer review article, The Influence of Exposure to Depictions of Race and Crime in TV News on Viewers' Social Judgments, it explains how different media content reinforces our own different kinds of stereotypes and influences our own behaviors and judgments towards culpability and punishment. Now going on to our third question, reinforcement of stereotypes. As spoken before, the media is influenced by the assumptions of society, while in return the assumptions of society is reinforced by mass media. However, the support of mass media alone is not enough to impact the assumptions of society to this extent. It is through the government and given policy laws that determine the danger levels of any crime to citizens. So, a great example showing just how big of a role the government plays in this is the peer review article, The Mental Disorder and Violence, an Empirical Picture and Context. So, it is stated in page 14 that sanctions are lawful punishments given by the government. So, this is important because if anyone were to receive a harsher punishment, it influences the viewers themselves to place a higher value of danger on the criminal, which just shows how big of a role the government has in helping us determine what is dangerous and what is not. However, it is also stated in page 12 that psychiatric patients are now targeted by politicians to provide credibility to new policies meant for social order. This just shows how targeted minority groups are and is why they must be protected and must be clarified. So, to further back this up, my reinforcement of stereotypes for question number 3 is the peer article construction of crack meth icon. So, a big concept that's learned in this article is that icons are ideas and / representations of society's opinions and assumptions, okay? And some examples of this are the welfare queen, the matriarch, and the crack mother. While the crack mother is an updated version of the welfare queen and the matriarch, which means icons are never something that really fades. It's always adds on and continues. Continuing on to my fourth question, government influence, we're going to review the video Bride Kidnapping and Kudazanga by Vice. So this video is pretty much about how kidnapping a bride is a deviant act and is illegal there, but can still be normalized due to the fact that it's a part of their culture. So because it's part of the culture, even though, and also the fact that it's illegal, the police does not catch men who have been kidnapped and women to be the bride. And I think it's a big deal that these police were to take action, because if they were to take action, then it would be considered more of a deviant act towards this culture, as they'll now be being arrested and stuff. And because they don't, it is because of this that the culture continues on this deviant act because it's not deemed as dangerous enough. Continue on to my fifth question, comparing ideas. It is in each four these articles that some ideas and statements can be related to what is taught in the textbook by John Kerr. However, there's also some concepts that is not covered by the textbook. Last, we'll compare ideas compared to the ones of the peer review article and the data shown in the BJS. So some similarities shown as the fact is that through each of the peer-reviewed articles, the focused minorities are deemed as deviants involuntarily. Thus, they experience what is known as role engulfment. This could have been due to any false accusations, stigma, and decision rules. So some difference is the fact is that compared to what's mentioned above, some difference is that the textbook does not go into depth about concepts, while each of these articles do. For example, in Mental Disorders and Violence, an empirical picture and context, and identify variables that deem a psychiatric and non-psychiatric patients as more dangerous or not. In addition, it states that psychiatric patients are not any more dangerous than non-psychiatric patients. So these are just some of the examples. Going on though, comparing ideas of BJS. So, a peer article is the influence of exposure to depictions of race, crime, and TV influencers on social judgments. It identifies that African Americans people are seen more likely as criminals to be violent, seem more likely as criminals to violent crimes, while white people are suspected as criminals to non-violent crimes. Besides, it also identifies that white people are considered as less suspicious compared to other potential races. So, in this row bar, in the 2014 row bar, it shows how that this is true, that white people are not as violent, and because they've only shown in the simple assault that they have higher criminalization rates there, while on all the other categories, the African Americans had higher crime rates than white people. On the other hand, the bar column based on the data given in the 2014 BJS showed that white people were the ones who committed the crime the most that year. Thus, it means that white people should be even more suspected as a criminal. So lastly, theoretical approach on deviance. The best theoretical perspective on deviance that describes the relationship between media's influences on social perceptions of crime, deviant behavior is conflict theory. Like stated in the previous slides, these assumptions on crime and deviance has been there since long ago. The reason for this is due to inequality of the past. For example, in the construction of the crack meth icon, welfare program has been originally made for white men. This will so that they can remain in power and keep women dependent on them. As such inequalities that these assumptions and minority groups are deviant, such that minority groups deviant are made in the first place. Okay, so thank you for this presentation, and sorry for how long it was. Bye. Thank you.